Hola mi gente, ¿cómo están? Aquí me llamo Alba Mar, me pueden decir Alba. El canal se llama Seriela y estamos aquí para hablar de libros y algunos de ellos en español desde Puerto Rico. Hi, my name is Alba. My name is Alba Mar, but you may call me Alba, and the channel name is Seriela, and we're here to talk about books and some of them in Spanish from Puerto Rico. First of all, I want to extend my heart. My heart goes out to everyone. First of all, the lovely people from the Bahamas who have been hit so hard by hurricane. We call him Dorian here in Puerto Rico, Dorian. And my best wishes for everyone in the hurricane's path because we know what it's like. So I'm keeping you all in my thoughts and hope you're getting prepared to weather the storm. So this is the transition, the August wrap-up and what's coming up in September. But first of all, I want to talk a little bit about what happened in July, right? You know that I had a relapse in July because of what was happening the summer of 2019, it's been called, where everyone essentially protested and forced the colonial administrator, Ricardo Rosselló, to resign, right? That entailed a lot of drama and suspense for a while because you know that in my last video, someone had designated Pedro Pierluisi, the governor, and he inaugurated himself in a private residence with no press and no people at all, no public. He was gone because it was immediately taken to court and his designation was deemed unconstitutional. Why am I bringing this up? And then the person who is now, we had 3 governors in 1 week. The person who is now administrating the colony, her name is Wanda Vasquez, who was previously our Secretary of Justice, who also appeared in the notorious chat, relieving herself of the responsibility of investigating where the hurricane supplies that were supposed to go to the people in need, why they weren't getting there. Yeah, that comes out in the chat. So when the possibility of her succeeding Rosselló came up, the hashtag immediately came up, Wanda renuncia. Anyway, I had a relapse. All this past year I've been avoiding refined carbohydrates and sugar because diabetes runs rampant on both sides of my family tree. And I was watching, back to watching a little bit of BookTube, and someone mentioned that there was someone who had suffered from diabetes and had to have her leg amputated. And I'm thinking, no, I don't want to do that. So I had relapsed and I was eating quesitos, and if I can remember, I will put it up here. I was eating quesitos on the sly and topping it off with a glass of milk, which I wasn't drinking either. I wasn't drinking milk. But I'm back on the wagon. I've given it up. And what's helped me get back into the swing of things and back to reading is a routine, and that Katie from Books and Things, yeah, she has her tracker on the refrigerator. That is the best idea. So I have my September tracker for the first 2 weeks right here. Yeah, and that was great for recovery. So back in the swing of things because of a set routine, and number 2, because I got back to watching K-dramas and every little bit of free time that I have, because it was hard to give up K-drama, Korean soap operas, yeah. So I'm back. And then Robert at Barter Hordes recommended Mr. Sunshine, and I started watching it yesterday. But Barter Hordes didn't have to say much more than that there was crying towards the end, and that's when I jump on board because I love the angst. So I'm back to watching K-drama, and I'm up to my routines. So yeah, what happened in August? I had a couple of bails before in July because of the summer of Ricky Renuncia. I had to bail on this wonderful book. I think it was, I heard it on Steve Donoghue's channel, I think, somebody's channel. And I got it from Overdrive, and I started reading. It's called Romantic Outlaws. But I couldn't continue because of the marches and the demonstrations and everything. And because the structure confused the heck out of me. Because one chapter would be about the mother, Mary Wollstonecraft, and the following chapter would be about her daughter. And it would alternate between these two timelines, and I couldn't keep it straight. I go back to it, but I want to read it differently. I want to skip the chapters and read all of Mary Wollstonecraft together, those chapters, and then read all of Mary Shelley's chapters together and see if I can get a better grasp of what was happening at the time. In August, I finished José Saramago, Las Intermitencias de la Muerte, Death with Interruptions, and it touched me so much, this book, and I loved it and enjoyed it so much that I think I might do a brief review of it on its own, or maybe a whole Saramago video, because I have a couple of more Saramagos on my bookshelves. So yeah, but I highly recommend Death with Interruptions, and I thank Jason for the opportunity of reading this book. Yeah, and then I buddy read Persuasion by Jane Austen with Judy over at Readerwoman. Thanks, Judy, and happy birthday again. I hope you had a great time. I know I did. It was an experience reading Persuasion because I had fallen in love with the main character in Persuasion, Anne, from the film adaptation, the 1995 BBC, I think it's a miniseries. But this Anne, I got to know a little better. And I was surprised. I was really surprised. Because Jane Austen allowed us to see everything, to read everything that Anne was thinking and ruminating and feeling. And I was surprised. I don't know if I made a mistake reading the foreword to this edition. And apparently this is an edition for high schoolers. And I read it. And unfortunately it mentioned the fact that Persuasion was Anne's last book. And it mentioned the fact that she was so sick, and that shortly afterwards she died. And I kept thinking throughout the reading how the author, how her state of health and her emotional state might have affected the writing of this book, which I found very, very mature. I loved it. And then I finally finished Dying to Better Themselves by Olive Sr. And I researched her. She's a Jamaican poet. She's a poet. And this is her only nonfiction that I Googled and I read about. And it's a fantastic nonfiction. She has resources and an extensive bibliography. And what I wanted to tell you is that one of the reasons why this took me so long was because she even mentions the work songs that the laborers sang while they were constructing the Panama Canal, and the songs that they took back to their homes in the different islands of the West Indies. And I looked those up, and I made a playlist, and I'll include the playlist down below if you're interested in hearing some of the songs from that period. Yeah, she did a very, very thorough job of depicting what life was like for the workers during the construction, before the construction of the Panama Canal, as a matter of fact, because West Indians were there at the very beginning during the construction of the Panama Railroad, and then during the construction of the French Panama intent to construct a canal, and then all during the construction of the United States endeavor. And then she even goes on to talk about what happened to those laborers after the construction, the ones who remained in Latin America, in the different countries, the surrounding areas of Panama, Central America, and Latin America, those who returned to the West Indies, and how they were viewed, and how the returning laborers, how they influenced the society that they had left. That was very similar to people who go from Puerto Rico to the United States or anywhere else in the world and then come back. Yeah, similar situations. So this was everything I had wanted and more. So I highly recommend this book to anyone. And then Doris recommended, I think it's a middle grade book, and I got it out from Overdrive. It's called Silver People, The Voices from the Panama Canal. And I have it on Overdrive, and I'm going to read it this month because I think it's going to be perfect for my grandchildren, both the girls and the boys. I'm continuing with Truman y Puerto Rico by Ángel Collado Schwartz. I'm already halfway through, and I'm pumped because we finally got to the part where we talk about how the Cold War has affected United States policy in Central America, in Latin America, and of course in Puerto Rico. I started Voices from Chernobyl. I bought it on Kindle because I couldn't find it used anywhere else. Seems like everybody wants to read that book by Svetlana Alexievich, I think her last name is. And I started reading that, and I hope to continue. Then I also started reading Rayuela because they were going to discuss this at the bookstore, but since Dorian was passing by that day, they suspended it for this week. And I'll try. Even though I'm not liking the main character, the intellectual of this novel, but I think it's an important part of the canon. So I'm going to give it a shot. We'll see. Well, before that, gotta let you know that I had mentioned, I had read, when I was Puerto Rican by Esmeralda Santiago, the buddy read with Heidi and Doris. What happened? I told you I wasn't thinking of going to the play, but it turns out that Esmeralda Santiago is going to be here for every function. So we decided, a group of us, that we're going to the last function on Sunday, and we're staying over. The only way that we could do it. So I got my fingers crossed that I can see Esmeralda Santiago. Yeah, all excited about that. I'm going to be reading for Don Pedro Albizu Campos' birthday. He was born on September the 12th. I'm going to be reading an author who's an expert, has numerous books on Don Pedro Albizu Campos, who was the president of the Nationalist Party in Puerto Rico. And his name, the author's name, is Pedro Aponte Vázquez. This is the first book that I read. And luckily, this one is in English, and it's called The Unsolved Case of Dr. Cornelius Rhodes, An Indictment. Oh, there's Pedro Aponte Vázquez right there. There's a photo of him. I hope you can see it through the glare. So anyway, that's what I'm going to be reading for Don Pedro Albizu Campos' birthday. And then, if I can put the picture up here, I'll be reading, which is a reread for me, about the revolts in Lares, Puerto Rico in 1868, called Grito de Lares, which was organized by Don Ramon Emeterio Betances, and that was 1868. And the author is Olga Jimenez de Wagenheim. Now, Olga Jimenez de Wagenheim originally wrote the book in Spanish, but I have an English edition, and that's what I'm going to be reading this time out. And then there's Shaketube. I already have my schedule made out for Shaketube. I'm going to be starting with, I got it here, Coriolanus. That's going to be the first week. And then Hamlet. Even though I read Hamlet last year, it's always worth a reread. Hamlet. And then there's Latinx-a-thon. I'm always reading Latin books, but anyway, I'll link the ladies who are hosting the Latinx-a-thon down below, and so that you can check out the prompts for yourselves. And I still haven't decided what I'll be reading, because I really try, though it's hard to resist the temptation of buying books. But I'm going to try to get some Latinx books from what I have here. And I remembered that there were some craftspeople that I know, a young couple, who makes fantastic things. And this is a magnet that I found at their shop of our flag. The flag, the regular flag, right, with the colors, and then the flag of resistance, the black and white flag that was that came out in 2016 when Promesa was imposed on us. Yeah. And that's going on the fridge. Then they make these little stickies that you can put on lighters. I didn't know lighters were a thing anymore, but yeah, you can put these on lighters. I'm going to put mine on my laptop, and it has different motifs from Puerto Rico. Yeah. So But this was the bookish one. They are making bookmarks. And this bookmark is Luisa Capetillo, who was a labor organizer and one of the first women in Puerto Rico to wear pants. She was arrested for it. And then there's Lola Rodriguez de Tio, who was a woman, a poet, who wrote the first lyrics to our national anthem, the original ones. Okay? People don't know that, but our lyrics were changed. Yeah. The first ones were revolutionary and had to do with El Grito de Lares, as a matter of fact. And then I also got this one, Arturo Schomburg. Yeah. The Schomburg Library in Harlem is named after him because of his extensive study of African American culture, not only in the United States, around the world. Marvelous personality. And then Filiberto Ojeda Rios, when he used to play the trumpet for salsa bands. Yeah. So, nos vemos, mi gente. Cuídense mucho. Take care, people, especially those in Dorian's path. My heart goes out to you. I hope you're safe. Adios.